There are going to be 9 judges in the panel adjudicating the grand final round. Mereka bisa ya control slide dari belakang harusnya. Bisa. Nggak apa, it's okay. There are going to be 9 judges judging the grand final round of NSCC 2024. Next slide. The first one, Anisha Alistasia from Nusa Tenggara Barat, champion of NUDC 2021 and all of the other achievements that Isha has. Secondly, next, Aulia Syafa Kamila from Jawa Barat, 5th Open Best Speaker of NUDC 2024. Next is Farah Sheila Balkis from Banten, 2nd runner-up of NSDC 2015. The next panel of judges we have, Kevin Kesuma from Jawa Timur, 2nd runner-up of NUDC 2022, a world's breaking judge of 2024. The next judge we have in the panel, Kimberly Roselyn from DKI Jakarta, the 2nd runner-up of NSDC 2019. We also have another judge. Next, Manda Bagaskara from Lampung, open semi-finalist of NUDC 2021. Another judge who will be judging the grand final is Maria Angelica Rico from Sulawesi Selatan, 4th Novice Best Speaker of NUDC 2023. The next panel that we have is Mirwanto Paulima Adveliptan Sida Butar from Sumatera Utara, 2 times medalist speaker from NUDC. And chairing the final round of NSCC 2024, the one and only, next, Upi Abdul Rahman. The speaking orders for the grand final round, from proposition, Joy will be speaking first, Cedric will be speaking second, Ellie will be speaking third, and Cedric will be doing reply. While from opposition, Ailifia will be the first speaker, Ryan will be the second speaker, Andy will be the third speaker, and reply will be delivered by Ryan. I'm going to give the floor to the chair, Kaupi, to moderate the debate.
Hi everyone, welcome to the grand final round of NSDC 2024. One more round of applause, please. As was previously introduced, we have Team Kalimantan Timur in proposition and we have Team Sulawesi Tengah in opposition. So wishing everybody the very best of luck and congratulations once again for reaching the grand final round of this very competitive tournament. After those introductions, just a number of housekeeping rules for everybody. I think first and foremost, Justin has mentioned previously, please maintain order, but you are welcome to provide supports, cheer as far as it is reasonable from the audience as well, because this is a debating championship. This is a debate round as opposed to a mass in church, right? So no absolute silence. That's completely fine for having reactions as long as it is reasonable. Second of all, just the usual reminder that speaking time for substantive will be 8 minutes. So just make sure you pay attention to that, and 4 minutes for reply. POIs will be allowed between minute 1 to minute 7, and you'll hear a single ding from the timekeeper when it comes to that, and the judges will also have a timer in order to track your speech. We have this timer over here in the laptop on the tables, on the judges' table, so that you can also track your speech using this device, so pay attention to that. Finally, POIs are really encouraged because that is very important as a component of engagement and overall holistic assessment in the WSDC format. Speakers are encouraged to take at least one POI and offer reasonable amounts of POIs that are healthy quantity-wise to the opposing bench. Okay? And also because this will be live streamed as well as there is a staging over here, just make sure that whenever you are speaking, it is clearly within microphones, and if there's any audio issues, we'll sort it out as we go. Any questions before we start? All good? Great. In that case, then wishing everybody the very best of luck. We're going to be talking about a cashless society, and without further ado, I'd like to invite the first proposition speaker to speak and open the grand finals. Here.
Firstly, I'd like to check if my mic is audible. Okay, cool. The economical cycle should not be imbalanced to one section. It should never be stopped. It should always develop. That's exactly what we stand on under proposition. But then again, the world under opposition would constantly stick on one feature, for example. They'd stick on one particular feature, for example. They completely stick into that part because they're comparatively comfortable between that factor. For instances of setup then, because we want a clear debate. Firstly, what does actively push, what does the transition of like a cashless society look like to begin with? So cashless societies would look like on the very basic credit cards or m-banking, for example, or in many purchases on like e-wallet, for example, or Curace or GoPay or any form of that instance. But just to transition completely towards a cashless society would mean that we'd slowly switch for a cashless society, for example. That would mean that we'd actively push from firstly implying this on every store, for example, but on the very extent the government would imply this as a regulation in a form that we'd stop using cash, for example. But secondly, then let's note that the current status quo, we have implied this currently in certain countries. For example, like China, we have massively regulated it, for instance, for every individual to use cashless applications, for example. And for example, for instance, too, Indonesia is already starting to catch up to it. We've donated billions of dollars, for example. We've invested on that partial part in a large amount of sum for us to actually get accessibility to Curace, for example. That is exactly the status quo. We've implied it on certain countries. This is why China is developing perfectly right now under the economic status. But I have two arguments that. Before that, two actors in this motion. Firstly, government and the government. What are their interests then? Their interests probably would actually to implicate a good economy. But how then we do this? Firstly, they would probably, not that they're probably like the most trusted actors in this debate. Individuals trust them, for example. Society relies on that, especially on economical factor, because they know all the government probably hold accountability upon all of their money, for example. They use this and they have trust begin all of their governments, for example. But secondly, note that they have the moral of responsibility. This debate is talking about as a government, for example, how we want this to happen, for example, this is exactly what will happen. But why will we ensure this under our side? Firstly, let's not that you probably want to develop as a good economy, for instance. If opposition could name like one country who would like to be broke, for example, then they win in this debate. But then again, let's note that like government has a moral incentive to educate all of these people, for example. They have the incentive to develop economically. This is perfect for them to benefit because now they can actually do it in a certain efficient sense. But secondly, what does society want then? Society probably wants efficiency. This is why everyone in the current status quo wants to be comfortable in a certain feature, for example. We want to access multiple things in a sense that is comfortable to us. Society wants everything to be efficient in a certain manner. We want everything to be fast-paced, for example. We want quick transactions. This is exactly what team government will then provide to you. But first argument then, why then you can only benefit from this? Two positive cases. Firstly, note that this is extremely efficient. Under the current status quo, people can only buy things from Kalimantan Timur, for example, when they could, like batik, for example, when they go to that, for example, under opposition. Let's note that under opposition, cashless society wouldn't exist. They'd have to shift completely under cash. They wouldn't be curious and banking, or for example, they'd have to prove why this is still efficient under their side of the house. But let's note that this is how you can get bigger efficiency, for example. Right now, everyone can still access this. I can now maybe use my phone, for example, to process on Shopee and get all the items I want, even beyond my country. I can access items from China, for example. I can go beyond my island and beyond my capacity right now. I can still have the efficiency right now because what is the impact of this? Firstly, you're most likely to open a big market net under proposition. By then, you can access everything internationally, and you will probably still additionally get a big
Right.
actor effect. Yes.
Isn't like online shopping also exist with cash because like there's COD and etc. meaning
People
that
get
exists.
scammed during COD or whatever. That is not a really comparatively better process. But then secondly, let's say that security will still happen under our side of the house. You will probably gain safety under our side because this bank, for example, has a regulation to protect your money, for example. These cashless applications still have the incentive to protect all of their money, for example. You still grant security under our side of the house because then now all your money is stored in one place. You can access this simply from your phone, for example, and even if it goes missing or anything, you can still access that in the personal part. But it takes a lot of time to get security under opposition because note that now we're extremely careless about money. We throw away every penny we have, for example, because we don't care about that. That's exactly what is going to happen when you stick to cashless. But secondly, not that under efficiency, you can now access everything, for example, beyond the global market. This is how proposition offers a bigger and much larger marketing scale. Right now, people can access everything and anything on the internet, for example, onto every application simply because right now they have this transaction impact to do so. We're not really limited onto the fact that we have to stick to cash, for example, but right now we can regulate every impact to every country right now because then again, you get this because now you can do it in every click. But thirdly, note that there's lots of benefits coming from our case. A money or a transaction does not only limitize the transaction, right? It has lots of feature. For example, now you can pay your electricity bills, for example, right now with just GoPay in Inomarat, for example. Under their side of the house, let's note that you have to probably go to a wrong bureaucracy process to implicate your money on certain places, for example. That'll be extremely difficult for individuals. Even in the current status quo, people literally don't know how to use their taxes or to pay every, whatever they need, for example. This is why we can actually access a lot of responsibility from individuals. Because note, all you have to do then now to protect your economic stability, for example, or to protect you economically wise, you'd probably just have to use these applications that is extremely efficient. Lots of features happen under our side of the house, and when that's the thing and when that's the scenario, then probably you still garner all of the effects just way easier. But secondly, under accessibility, I will just note this since this is probably going to be the biggest argument from there. Firstly, let's not that everyone can still access this. The government has an incentive to do this slowly, for example, simply because they don't want to fail, for example. But then again, everyone can still access this. This is simply very effective, and to transact internationally, probably this is going to be better. But why accessibility is important then? Firstly, not that if you're cashless, you could probably travel for any country and you probably don't have to switch currency when you're doing so. You will probably grant a certain safety net under that situation because that's extremely efficient, right? But secondly, not that probably they're gonna bring oh, not everyone has phones or whatever. Let's note that m-banking or whatever, transactions of a cashless society does not limitize to that situation. You're probably still going to have cards, for example, or credit cards that is still a form of cashless, right? But you'd still garner accessibility under our side of the house because that does not take a lot of money. I think a lot of low-income people, for example, already secure their money in banks under credit cards. That still happens under our side. But secondly, this is a very simple argument. Not that probably opposition will probably talk about phones, and secondly, this is not the biggest urgency, right? But just to note, firstly, there's a second-hand phones all everywhere. This is extremely linked to our supply and demand. Now everybody and every individuals need phones, for example. You need accessibility towards that phone. Probably companies are going to massively produce this, for example. There's the supply and demand code. Now that, for example, individuals will still probably access this garner. But what is the comparative here then? Firstly, probably in opposition, a lack of surface of the economic development will happen throughoutly. Because note that, for instance, they don't want to change. They want to stick to the most comfortable part. But secondly, they will most likely be stagnant on innovation because then again, they still don't want to change. This is bad.
All right, we thank the first proposition speaker for those very fine remarks. To start the case in the opposition side of the House, we'd like to invite first speaker from that bench to speak. Hear her.
Testing? Okay. Oh. Is there any like timer that I can use? Oh, there. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, itu aja. Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panels, we can see that efficiency will happen on their side because now it is a system that you only need to click, for example, to use. But panels, we say that because it is so efficient, this is what causes where it is prone to be over efficient. Panels. Why is this bad? We say that they still need to prove, like why when were you able to click it so quickly, for example, you're not able to see the number of money that you are putting in your bank account when you do the transaction. This creates still like a rationality in spending. Panels, right? We say that there is a lack of responsibility and rationality because realize efficiency comes with a cost, right? Where there are more features to attract these consumers by making Shopee Plus not accessible, where you need to pay more to get the best benefits, or how there are like more discounts or vouchers that you can use to make it more accessible for these people. Therefore, we say that this is what creates the lack of rationality in spending. We will prove to you that it is bad. But then we also say that team proposition failed to mechanize, for example, in how will we say that their cases is contingent upon the fact that this will be accessible without explaining like how does this become accessible anyways. Like what do you mean? Will you make it like accessible in rural areas? How will you make this, and why is like when it's contingent upon internet, like it is still something that they can find? This is a burden from them to prove, and it has been left unfinished by their first speaker. Panels, right? 2 points of rebuttals coming from team opposition. First, on the idea of security, where there is more incentive to protect these buyers and etc. Comparative to our side. 2 responses toward this. A, we say that this is completely symmetric. Panels. If you can prove to you like which bank does not secure safety of people's money in these certain banks, then their cases can fly when they explain that. Because we say that no, banks still have regulations, for example, in protecting your money, because this is like the government interest, for example, to do this. They want their citizens' money to be safe, for example, that they can use and etc. Therefore, it is not symmetric, and it is not an important point. But then B, we say that security is only worse because your system is contingent upon the use of internet. We say that this also comes with a cost, where now there is more technology, for example, or incentives to like manipulate the system, and I will further elaborate that in my cases. But then second rebuttal, where they say that it will be hard to like it will be the process of like buying with cash will be hard and etc. 2 responses towards this. First of all, panels, we say that why is this complexity the most important thing, and why will it stop these people from buying? We say that this is this case does not make sense because realize that people still need to like buy their daily essentials. People buy things whenever they see it's good, whenever they like it. For example, they still need to like use money as a form of transaction to buy things that are essential for their need. Therefore, we say that this is not likely to happen. But then, second of all, realize that exactly because it's becoming a complex process, we said this will create better rationality on our side. Realize because this looks like how now you have to see your wallet, for example, or like you have to see how much money is of you is decreasing, for example. This is what creates a rationality to see the tangible impact of how much money can you spend. Therefore, there's like more rationality to like save your money when it's not that important, for example, and etc. But before moving on to our cases, please.
I think people never being irrational because money is something that is essential. Because you don't have any money, you can die.
I will prove to you in my arguments why even if money is essential, we say that the features that are pushed by these online apps will still make you dive into this consumerism at the end of the day. 2 points of framing here. First of all, how does actively pushing for a transition towards a cashless society look like? We say that now there's a push from government to collaborate with companies to make curious and etc. more accessible, not only big companies but small vendors and etc. or normalize society to use this. But note, when there is a push for
cashless app companies who are profit-oriented, we say that there is also a push for them to add more like features such as GoPay Plus, Shopee Plus, more vouchers to use or discounts to use when you're going to do a transaction. We'll prove to you why when this is like so visible towards this the individuals, this will push the consumerism to happen. But then second point here, what do we want as Team Gov? We're going to diminish the use of cashless apps. Let's look at government like Cominfo are going to block cashless apps, or like the use of credit cards where there's more incentive to make the ATM system where you can only take out cash, for example. Our path to victory is we want individuals a rationality in spending or trading becoming more accessible, and we say that even if Gov is efficient, we'll pursue why then this efficient will backlash at the end of the day. First argument, why cashless society is that only fuels consumerism, and why is it bad? Panels, what happens when you create a cashless society? Two things. A, where there are many features to ease the consumers. Panels realize that the prerequisite for you to make like society switch into these cashless apps, for example, is to make it as interesting as possible, where individuals like want to have the incentive to transfer their real life money into these certain apps, for example. What does this look like? We say when companies are profit oriented, this is more likely for them to make features that are interesting towards these individuals in using these apps later. We say that this looks like how when before you're going to spending such as GoPay, how there is so many features like this 20% until 50% discount, for example, or like more vouchers to use at the end of the day, or like to unlock the best features for it to be more efficient, for your stuff to come quicker, you have to like download GoPay Plus and etc. But then B, realize how there is still many steps that you have to fulfill to be cashless, right? We say that this is not contingent upon like the smartphones and etc., but also like the quota, for example, or relying on good internet. We say that it already gives you a big amount of spending. When you rely on this, there is still like a cycle of you having to buy more internet, or like you have to rely on good internet in that certain place. Therefore, to why then this consumerism happens toward this?
POI?
Two things. No, the reason why consumerism happened is because there are features for you to spend more. Individuals are interested in doing this because, for example, there are like some stuff that they want to buy. For example, it is interesting towards them. It is what fulfills their happiness. Therefore, they want to buy this because it gives them that self-fulfillment. We say that this is where when you get like an easier access that is more efficient, it pushes you to do this, right? But then why is it bad? We say that now there's less rationality or accountability towards your future spendings, for example. You gain fulfillment now, but you suffer later. You have like less savings in the future because you get to have maximized, but by keep pressing a button. But now you are like but now you're like considering like how much amount of money do you have anymore, for example, because it is limited between like the features that you give. Therefore, we say that this with the world where there's like many uncertainty in life, for example, or like such as crisis, or you need money for like future problems, we say that this is so bad. But then comparatively on our side, there is a more process of calculation because there is a tangible impact. You see the money, right? Like you see like how much money decreases when you spend, for example. We can see that it is okay. Like it will be a complex process, but we say that this is what at the very least doesn't create a huger like consumerism on their side. But then second argument, why cashless society is only unsustainable or inaccessible to a certain degree. First layer then, upon accessibility, we can see now that like now small vendors or like markets will be able to do this. But why is it still bad? Because financially disadvantaged people still have to fulfill certain aspects, such as internet, like the stability towards this, or how you need to keep repurchasing this to get like the best fulfillment towards this, right? Therefore we say, but even if in the best case they're able to fulfill this, we say that it's bad because the maximum features are still going to be inaccessible, such as like GoPay Plus, for example, or Shopee Plus, where now it is better, you have a better transaction method. Therefore, it is still not accessible, very exclusive, and we say that shouldn't happen because we need this accessible process, for example, for trading that is an important aspect in our life. But then second layer, in terms of unsustainability, right? When you're contingent upon the use of internet, we say that even everyone can access this. We say that when crisis can happen anytime, electricity instability or like weather and etc., like that can be contingent upon like the use of internet towards these cash and payments. We say that it is bad because it's an uncertain method of payment. But then B, when it's digitally, we also say it is hard for you to ensure the security because now you have more internet like chances to manipulate this or to especially when the rise of like chances to do this, for example. Therefore, we say we're so proud to oppose.
All right, we thank the first opposition speaker for those very fine remarks. To continue the debate, I'd like to call upon second proposition speaker. Here. And also before second proposition, just to make sure that miking does not necessarily disturb your voice, just make sure that the mic isn't exactly in front
Oh,
of you.
ada.
A bit to the side would be fine, so that you're still audible but without the echo from the breath.
Okay, am I audible? Okay, am I audible? Okay. Right now we have a lot of technology but I think like the thing is simple. I think right now I'm standing, I using this kind of timer. Maybe in the past we counting by my finger, for example, and counting arithmetically. It shows how technology and those kind of modernization always happen. The proposition want to making all those Indonesian people, all those rural area people still on the rock era where they don't have any technology and they normalize it. This is your burden opposition. One important framing here. The biggest mistake and the biggest urgency the opposition trying to offer is that we want to make it more accessible. We have those kind of internet connection, for example, the problem that exists. How we can make it accessible? Two reasons in here. Number one, I think it is a fiat a proposition to saying that this mechanism will work. I think this is those kind of fiats that government have those kind of capacity to making those kind of connection, for example, and internet to be more accessible toward people, for example. But second thing is, actively push doesn't mean it will be like in the one day, for example, it will be happen. No, but it's gradually will happen, for example, and using those kind of step-by-step mechanization. Maybe you socialize, for example, and knocking every door on like the rural area, for example, to trying to socialize about like how to using here, for example, and how to accessing those kind of technology, for example, and those kind of internet. But thirdly, even if it's true, you want to talk about like those kind of rural area people, two justification in here. Number one, it's okay anyway, because lately you will always have those kind of modernization. Maybe in the past in the rural area we don't have any handphone, but right now we can use handphone, for example, to calling my friend on like Jawa people, for example, and those kind of stuff. But second thing is, exactly it's better because because we have those kind of urgency on like international competition. We want to making those kind of things, for example, to be like modernization equally, for example, spread, not just centralized on Java, for example, because they have those kind of capital city. But at least on the our side, we can make it this kind of things, for example, equal. Maybe those kind of rural area people can using handphone right now, those kind of things, for example. But if you care about the internet connection, because exactly we push and using those kind of active movement, for example, we make it a more connection better because you're using a significant action. Two clashes in my speech. Number one, let's talk about the economical macro. Secondly, let's talk about the economical micro. But one important framing before I'm moving on. I think the thing is simple. Opposition cases is no urgency at all because they never give you any counter mechanism solution under their side, how you're trying to solve this kind of problem, what the comparative under their side, and why those kind of things is important. Moving on to my first classes then, let's talk about economical macro. There's a two observation. Number one, let's talk about irrationality and those kind of consumerism because their only urgency is talk about those kind of consumerism. 6 responses for this. Number one, I think no. I think before I just want to go to this kind of irrationality, I think irrationality is not equal with a random decision that you have. Maybe I'm debating in midnight is irrational, right? But for me, the one that have those kind of access to have those kind of experience, it's not irrational decision because I'm the one that watching those kind of ads, for example, every day, or like I'm the one that watching and seeing those kind of Shopee every day, for example. But second thing is, no, I think those kind of ads, for example, and those kind of economical things never blurry your rationality. It's simple because economical is something that is essential. People know this because without this kind of economical, maybe we cannot stand in here, for example, and do those kind of things, for example, or like those kind of economical is important. But thirdly, there is always a priority scale, for example. Maybe today I'm eating like GoFood, for example, and those kind of stuff, but maybe lately I will using like buy those kind of OMKM things, for example, that is more cheaper, for example, for me. It's better because there is those kind of variation of price, for example, on the our side that is better. But fourthly, exactly, I will trying to co-opt their benefit. If the logic is simple, that if you want to pursuing those kind of consumerism, on the our side is better with a two analysis. Number one, it's incentivize individual to working really hard, for example, and work harder, for example, to get those kind of money and gain those kind of money and profit, for example. Because simply, I want to go for Shopee, and then like I have to working first, for example, and go those kind of things, for example, to making those kind of things, for example, are significantly right under their side. Because in order for me to buy pizza, for example, and those kind of stuff, I still have to working. But secondly, then why this is important? Because it's increasing those kind of more progressivity of money, for example, and economical cycle more faster on the our side. Because at least on the our side, people can still like working, for example, and achieve and strive those kind of things, for example, in order for them to trying to buy those kind of things. But lastly, then why this is the better level of education that government put? This is simple, right? Because the thing is simple. You never have like succeed to educate people if you never give them the experience. It, for example, for me, even if in the worst case, right? Because because like I don't have any money because I already too much consumerism, it make me more like educate, for example, because like in the future, maybe I cannot do those kind of things, for example. Maybe I will likely to have those kind of like a personal strategy, for example, how I trying to manage my money better, for example, on the our side, because you have those kind of like, epitomists actually, for example, trying to accessing those kind of condition on the our side. I think everyone don't want to be starving anyway, right? That's why on the our side, you will likely to have those kind of urgency. Secondly, let's talk about the security thing, for example, on the our side. There's two things in here. Number one, I think security better, because here's the logical and the weighing here. Because in both sides, security happen. Yes, I agree, you still have those kind of security, but the problem is simple. The security under opposition is contingent on how people using this kind of money. I think you can easily be robbed by other people. You still have those kind of jambret, for example, that exist that maybe randomly can happen under your side. But at least why under our side is better? To analysis. Number one, government and company that they said about like collaboration to making those kind of security and those kind of like website, for example, is better. Because right now, the intervention of the security is not just from you to using those kind of money, but it's coming from the people and coming from the government too, for example, that intervene and making this kind of system, for example, better under our side. It shows to you how we can tackle those kind of urgency under our side. But secondly, exactly when we try to actively push this hard, it incentivizes government, for example, to trying to do those kind of evaluation, for example, and develop their economically well. But how do I give the weighing here? The two things in here. Number one, their cases is not important at all. They never protecting those kind of vulnerable actor. But the thing that we're trying to protect is about the UMKM people, for example, and UMKM company. How do we protect them? To analysis. Number one, I think on the our side, you can still protecting those kind of UMKM, you still can protecting those kind of UMKM, for example, because if it's true, on the our side, people will likely to be consumerism, they will likely to buy those kind of like UMKM too, for example, to helping those kind of economical. This is important and contingent though, because if it's true that there is under their side, there is no ads, there is no Shopee and those kind of stuff, on the our side, we can help them better, for example. But second, we open the spread market anyway. Right now, I'm a Samarinda person, for example, I can buy those kind of Jawa clothes, for example, for me, for my necessity, for example, and those kind of stuff. It's open you, for example, to them, for example, trying to opening those kind of things, for example, and like buying those kind of things, right? But even if it's true, like Rajan want to say that, we have COD and those kind of stuff, I think Joy already pretty much respond this by saying that people right now are not trusting COD because exactly there's a scammer, there's a lot of status quo. What is the extension in here? One thing in here. Number one, let's talk about investment, right? Because it's the important context for the economical right now in status quo. I want to give you the contextualization, how investment looks in status quo. Number one, investment is very various, right? There's a lot of variation of the investment. You can investing on house, you can invest into like cryptocurrency, for example, and those kind of stuff. But why is exclusive better on the our side? Number one, I think the parameter to you to invest into something is not that using those kind of cash, those kind of stuff. Because like right now, the interest of the investor want to get those kind of efficiency, for example, and effectivity. Under our side, you can invest into like foreign thing, for example, maybe investing toward like the cryptocurrency, because right now you have those kind of like cashless thing, for example, that may be tradable, for example, outside of your like country, for example, and outside of your city. Why this is important though? To analysis. Number one, we give them a better option, because under their side, they just only using like the bureaucratic thing, for example, to trying to invest in something. They just like investing house, but like there's no guarantee anyway why this is those kind of things is significant. But at least on the our side, we give them the economical education better, because right now, like those kind of trend, for example, maybe can impossible to happen, for example, to exist on the our side, and those kind of stuff, for example, and this is important. But second thing is, this is important because the parameter to investor to trying to invest into something, if there is innovation under their side, right? Because on our side, using this kind of like those kind of queries, for example, and those kind of like application is making the innovation significantly happen, for example. That's why in OFO, for example, maybe you can like not just like paying those kind of like Grab, for example, but right now you can pay those kind of like electricity, for example, and those kind of stuff that maybe significantly can happen. Under our side, at least we can provide them a better innovation, for example, and trying to make it more accessible toward people, because right now not just like exclusive people that can use it, the one that is educated, but right now every people, rural area people, and poor people, for example, can use it better. But second cautious then, let's talk about micro things, right? The only thing they say that, there's ads and discount, for example, exists in status quo, and this is problematic. Three reasons in here. Number one, discount and ads is symmetrical, because under your side, even if there is no technology assumed under their side, there is still like a baliho, for example, to making those kind of like ads, for example, and those kind of discount. But secondly then, exactly it's better under our side, because we give you a variation of price, for example, and variation of the like product, for example, you can buy outside of it, for example, you make it the market more wider, for example. That's why I'm very proud to win.
All right, we thank the second proposition speaker for those very final remarks and calling upon second opposition to continue their case. Here. I'm sorry, second off, if you want to speak, can you just make sure the mic is, yeah, exactly, that'd be great. Just
Wait.
in front of your,
Check. Is this enough? All right.
that's audible, just want to make sure it doesn't echo.
Okay.
The breaths, okay?
All right. Check. Kak, just to remind, the last speaker timer wasn't on. Yeah, and all right, starting my speech in, all right, starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. We still question what is the clear goal and like the urgency that is want to be bring on the proposition. If they really want to mechanize how technology has to develop and etc., we say like towards the rural people or like rural areas, it's like transaction technology invention is the most needed for them. Even like these rural areas have still like lack of economy, education development, or like there are still more things to cater for government. Meaning like technology invention isn't like the most thing that we have to consider in this debate. Or like they want to select UMKM. All right, let's play in that then. It's not exclusive to begin with because like UMKM, if you want to cater them, it's not contingent upon like the transaction, but like clearly so many metrics like marketing strategy or like products and etc. Meaning like their cases is just like flying away. There's no like likelihood and etc. Or like cycling, like they want to say like variation of price. We said that there is no like clear explanation of what kind of prices that you want to provide. Or like even if you have a variation of price, we said that this is what clearly push individuals to like non-stop consume and non-stop buying anything for the sake of like not waste away these promos without like more consideration whether or not it is useful towards them at the end of the day. Therefore, at the end of the day, you need to crystallize what is your current goal and what is your path to victory. We are clear panels from the beginning. We want a more rationality in spending where individuals know what's the limit for themselves. And secondly, we want an accessibility for everyone, like in rural areas, financially disadvantaged, to can still barter, trade, and consume as normal as you want, as normal at the end of the day. 2 points of crisis here. First, regarding the accessibility, they come and say that technology is like the most thing for you to be like accessible and etc. Other than we said that this isn't like the most urgent thing to be provided as a like for rural areas or like for minority and etc. But B, when they say that this is fiat, we say no panels. Like imagine like, all right, we want to say like it's fiat for you to have a society that is cashless, but like how is the implementation then? How is people with like no purchasing power to have access like towards smartphone or like towards internet and etc. They never explain this and mechanize this to begin with. Therefore, we said that it is never explained and there's still like a missing line in their arguments at the end of the day. Or B, even if yes, then it's going to be for everyone. We say it is even worse on their side panels. Why? You make rural or like minority financially disadvantaged people easily to spend as much as they want with less rationality. This is even worse because they're most likely the financially disadvantaged ones to begin with. You make these people go into like the rabbit hole of like consumerism and doesn't consider their like financial stability at the end of the day. This will be worse on your side. But even if like you can still do so, to do so like socialize people or like provide technology and etc. We said it is very time consuming for like government or like you have to have more funds to begin with, which we said it is to begin with not strategic and it's not urgent thing at the end of the day to provide to our society. Comparatively on our side, we have already like things that is already belongs to everyone and is already habituated to do so. Like even people in rural or like remote areas have already like tangible cash to begin with. They know how to trade towards it, and we say the accessibility is way on us because it is important not only towards people or like the privileged ones and only for the sake of inventions, but we want as a government to make tradings and like bartering is accessible for everyone to do so because it is an essential need at the end of the day. Second class then, regarding rationality, they come and say that people will still rational in like fulfilling their daily needs and etc. No panels. I'm going to crystallize it and reframe and crystallize it again. Why we mean by irrationality is like most likely on like tertiary needs where you only want to spend your disposable income, where you are only like most likely no rationality to spend towards some extent. How does it look like? It looks like how when you open like Shopee or like GoPay, it provides you with like this is what you want to eat today. This is what very likely with your interest us to buy like certain bags and etc. Or like how the time limit of promos or like vouchers is going to be over very soon. You have to now use it. Therefore, people only like consider, oh my god, I need this to like consume it now, whether or not it is my mood, whether or not it is my essential needs. I only want to like utilize these promos at the end of the day. It's very likely for you to like irrational in consuming. Or B, you said
Right.
it is okay then. It is okay because you can still like work harder. A, we say no panels. It is an instant decision to begin with, where you only like need a mood to like consume or like to purchase. Or like B, saying that it is okay for you to like work harder to have a more disposable income is just evil in their way. Meaning you like gaining money is not that easy to begin with, especially like for like minority or like even for some people, disposable income is not that easy to gain. Meaning that the case that is even to push people to have more money is very cruel at the end of the day and bad towards individuals. Comparatively on our side, we say we have a more tangible cash and like tangible spendings. How does it look like? There is a like complexity of process between you before you spend something. Like let me like picturize this. The moment like you take out your wallet, you count how much you have to spend and like you take it out. This complexity of process gives you like a rationality to come and like envision how will be it impactful towards me and whether or not this is for my essential needs. And at the end of the day, we have like this complexity can create a rationality and won't create a consumerism at the end of the day. The way on this debate is what is more important, rationality or like the access or like the efficiency. We say rationality is more important, especially for people there is especially for like people in like their own like financial instability and have to have more consideration towards their needs. And B, even for normal society, it is also needed because rationality is what makes you like is what creates a sustainability towards your financial condition at the end of the day, and it is within the government to push that to have like a better society at the end of the day. Before moving on to extension, yes.
I think people and minority, even if they buy something, is consented by them, and even more, I think it's a bear of happiness for them. I think it's not an evil thing.
It's simply not panels. Notice how when you gave aid stores, the status quo issues, it's like government is only giving aid stores minority without no socializations. How does it look like? You make people do this for like the sake of like buying things that is not within their essential needs. Meaning minority or like financially disadvantaged people have so many things for you to fulfill before you make them rationalize their spendings at the end of the day. This is the majority cases to begin with, and what happens, meaning at the end of the day, giving them a more technology to be more accessible or like more efficient is what will stab their own back at the end of the day. Third argument then, regarding government's burden to overcome. Context of this argument is where government is most likely to be responsible to cater each layer of societies of economic instability. I'm going to extend the point of consumerism here. Consumerism is a gradual process for you in gaining and financial instability. How does it look like? Individuals will easily spend their money and wildly spend their money eaten by promos, vouchers, and like subscription and etc. What does this lead into? It only leads into cases in the society like how individually are financially increasing. How in certain nations people are in the like their GDP or like their purchasing power of society is decreasing at the end of the day. Or like many cases of like debt collector are like in everyone's houses and even financially disadvantaged now. Why is this likely then? It traps you, the cashless traps you into a rabbit hole to keep consuming, like to not waste the promos, or like every tiny mood that you have to consume something will make you easily order it because it is as simple as making a decision in your hand at the end of the day. This is what push more like irrationality and consumerism. What does this implies into? Government are now have to be responsible to cater towards these issues at the end of the day. They have to like cater towards more aids towards society. They have to like cater towards more instability of economy, and they have to like cater towards more like socializations of how to use like how to spend your money rationally at the end of the day. This is not within the government's interest to begin with, because we as a government like want at the end of the day, and the practical is the economic stability of our society. We want everyone to have like their money and financial in a good status, and we want them to have like more rationality in spending and to not like waste it for something that is not essential towards them at the end of the day. We say for a better stability of economy and the interest of government, we're so proud to be in grand final. Thank you.
We thank the second opposition for those very fine remarks. As a final substantive from Team Proposition, third speaker now, please. Here.
Am I audible? Oh. Am I audible right now? Or like, okay, I think this is better. A world where opposition lives in is a world where you need to go to ATM to get money. That's why I'm very proud to propose. Before anything, I need to reframe that what is cashless means. I believe cashless goes in every form, such as debit card, credit card, e-wallet, etc. So I believe you cannot just oppose us by e-wallet and internet, etc. But later I will engage into it. I believe their arguments is very weak because they only have two main arguments. First, about irrationality under our side, and then lastly, about how the usage of internet would harming the cashless will, I would put it into my clash. Framings. First, I believe that cashless is so important because it's beneficial for all actors, the government itself, the society, or even the economical actors itself, which I believe already portrayed well by our PM and DPM. Secondly, I believe it fits the interest of govs of how they want the effective economy cycle and flows. That's why we believe that their arguments is not winning. Moving on to my clash about rationality and consumerism. Do notice on what they weigh under our side is consumerism that will be harmful. But we say that effectiveness of cashless will be very beneficial. Why? First, irrationality wouldn't happen because what the opposition side of the house brought is how you wouldn't check your money, and because it's very easy, you will just spend it anyway and without thinking. First, exactly why under our side, the fact that cashless is very easy to access, you will just easily check your money, right? Because you could just open your phone and then you can see how much sum in your phone, or so I believe that you will just regularly check it because the fact that right now to check it's very easy rather than under your side you need to go to ATM or you need to go to bank just to see how many money spent in your bank right now. And then second, I believe cash is harmful. Two things. First, you have the fact that you have a lot of cash, it means that you will feel that you have a lot of purchase power, which here I believe with the fact that you have the confidence in the market, you would likely to buy more and spend more, right? And then second, exactly why you wouldn't check your money, because right now you have it cash, or even if you want to check money, I believe it's not effective because now you need to go to the bank. And then thirdly, how irrationality wouldn't happen under our side. First, the fact that e-wallet sum or like your bank sum would just show in your phone, I believe that it's very easy, so it wouldn't be an irrational thing because right now you could just see it. If you don't have a lot of money, you wouldn't just buy anything, right? Secondly, even if not, first, I believe that if you want to buy something, you have a lot of considerations. If this is the point, I believe even if in cash, if you want to buy it, you will get it. Because I believe even if you have cash money, if you really want to buy it, you will just get it anyway. Because I believe if you want to talk in how about in cash, there are a lot of considerations. It will happen even with cashless anyway. Secondly, thirdly, even if overbuying happen under our side. First, right now they know the harm. What is the harm exists by the overbuying that exists because they are They know what is the harm exists by their actions. So it means that they would learn it. So they will be more careful in the future. So they wouldn't just buy anything recklessly. That's why irrationality wouldn't happen under our side. But what they cannot prove to us right now, panels, market efficiency. What will happen under opposition side of the house? Two things. Market stagnancy, because now you rely on cash. It means that your market couldn't expand. Secondly, the economical state of your country will be left behind comparatively to other countries. And how is that significantly happen under our side? First, you open up market to a lot of countries. I believe that here, there will be a lot of foreign investors that come to your countries because now the access is very easy. You open up your market and you make it easy to access your markets. I believe it's very portrayed by our DLO. And then second, trust. Now, your country look as a country that is very welcome, very open, very modern. So I believe they will trust to come into your country because now, the fact that a lot of people could invest, your country looks like a potential countries to invest on. So lastly, exactly under our side, first, you have the incentive to expand the market, and then second, public bank So exactly how under our side, the rural area will be catered first. You have the incentive to expand the market. As government, you want to expand the market, so of course you need to cater on the rural area. But second, the fact that public bank exists, such as BRI or BNI exists in a lot of rural area, I believe that cashless is not a problem that would be very concerning as to how the oppositions of the house portrays it. And what is our worst case that brought by them is overbuying, right? First, the fact that you want a lot of things, it means that you would work a lot of things because I believe productivity is exclusively happen under our side. And then second, it is a good trade-off anyway. Why? Because if you overbuy, who are the ones that benefited? The UMKM, the company that sell it. So if they are benefited by the money that you spend on them, I believe they would open up, I believe it will be a greater good. How? Employment, a lot of job opportunity. The way that right now there are a lot of people sell in Shopee, TikTok Shop, etc. It proves how on our side it is significantly better. POI.
Isn't it like so cruel for you to say it is okay for individual to be consumerism when at the end of the day it'll impact themselves and they have like no purchasing power anymore to do like economy, circulation, etc.
If you say about purchasing power, I believe that even if you have cash, if you have zero money, you wouldn't buy anything. It happens asymmetrically. Under our side, if you have zero money, even if it's cashless, you cannot buy anything anywhere, right? So I believe it is just the way of how you buy it, not like the money of you have, because I believe even if you have cash, you wouldn't have money, rainy money anywhere, right? And then lastly, they talk about internet. I believe that first, they said that how internet is a barrier for cashless. First, no. Debit card, credit card access, which doesn't need internet, so it proves that how internet doesn't significantly matter. Second, but yes, they do need electricity, but do notice on how ATM also need electricity. It proves that how the problem is symmetrical. Second, internet is accessible everywhere. No Wi-Fi, you have quota. The fact that right now, your government is emphasizing on this, on the transitional, I believe that your government would significantly provide you a better internet. And then lastly, it's symmetrical because cash have more barrier. First, how about the bank closed? You couldn't get your cash money. Second, ATM died. You cannot get your money. The fact that ATM doesn't exist everywhere too, I believe that the access will be very hard under your side too. And even more, maybe like your guess that you need to go to the ATM, weighing. First, accessibility. Oh, they said how accessibility was hard under our side because there are a lot of underprivileged people that couldn't access to here. First, accessibility is not a burden. How? First, government will provide you this. It means, for example, like Kiris is free. The fact that public bank exists, I believe that if the government wants to, they will provide you the access itself. Second, technology and knowledge is not it's not a problem. Why? First, people are now progressive. Second, I believe that the system are now easy. The fact that Indonesia spent 1 trillion on QRIS, it proves that how it is very accessible because they want to make it as effective as possible. How about the old people? First, notice on how credit card access, debit access, it proves that how they always use it anyway. And then second, even if it's the worst case that the old people couldn't use this or the underprivileged couldn't use this, what we are catering here also, so I believe that it is more important for us to focus on the next generations itself. Second, exclusivity at our side is how we could access the international market and how we could access the microtransaction itself. Why cash is less impactful? Because first, cashless can access into more fields such as microtransactions if you want to buy something in game, which couldn't be happen with cash. That's why Kaltim needs to win NSDC 2024. Thank you.
All right, we thank that speaker for those very fine remarks. And finally, as the last substantive from Team Up and in the overall grand final debate, third up, hear her. Sorry, mic-nya agak jauhin aja nggak apa-apa kok.
Oh, okay.
Iya, di pinggir. There we go. It doesn't have to be exactly in front of
Okay.
you.
Check. When a lot of people still have minimum wage, a lot of people still do not have sustained job, for example, we say that these people cannot have the privilege to be consumerism at the end of the day, and we say that this is what we're going to protect on our side. protect on our side. Two major reasons why they should lose this debate. Firstly, they talk on the first speaker, they talk about the development that is needed, therefore this is justified. We say that the development is needed, yes, but when the development actually harm how the society acts, for example, how it creates society that consumerism, that do not consider that how they will act, how they will have certain money in the future, for example. We say that this is not justified at the end of the day because this is actually harm the society. Therefore, development is, therefore, we say that it's justified for us to stop the development at the end of the day. We say that this is important for them to actually explain why the development is better than how the society will be harmed through consumerism at the end of the day. Therefore, we say when they don't explain this at all, they should lose this debate. But then secondly, they on their whip, they talk about the accessibility is not their burden. We say that this is their burden because this is actually the government role, for example, the government role that they need to cater everyone in the society, because you're going to apply this for everyone. You're going to make everyone cannot have cash, everyone will use cashless at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that this should be accessible at the end of the day. We say that they never cater about people in the remote area that still do not have internet at the end of the day. At the end of the day, 2 point of rebuttal before moving on to our class. Firstly, they say that rationality still happen on our side, on their side, because they are rechecked at the end of the day. To respond for this, we say that this is less likely to happen for people to recheck again, because exactly what they want to achieve on their side is efficiency. And we say that doing recheck, for example, seeing how much you spend is not something that efficient at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that this is not likely for this is not likely for these people to actually recheck, because this is more complex and they do not want this on their side. But then secondly, there are also way for a company to still attract these people, for example. Even if they still recheck, there's still a way for the company to keep promoting their things, for example, so that these people keep buying even if they see that my money is not that much anymore. But then second rebuttal about they say that this is make the stagnant in the market. To respond for this, we say that they never talk about how the stagnant looks like at the end of the day. Because on our side, we say that the buying process still happen, for example. We do not stop the buying process. The difference is that we only use cash at the end of the day. These people still need to buy essential needs at the end of the day. But then second response, even if yes, for example, buying will be less on our side, we say it's okay because the buying that will happen is only on essential needs at the end of the day, that do not makes people makes people be consumerism at the end of the day. But then before moving on to our class,
But you making the market and production are just like for the essential thing, but how about like clothes and those kind of things, for example, because they say those kind of OMKM under our side.
we say that when something tertiary, for example, that is not essential, is what actually these people need. For example, they want to buy necklace, they were still going to sacrifice taking long journey, for example, to buy this thing. Therefore, we say that this buying tertiary thing still happens on our side at the end of the day. 2 point of clash I'm going to talk about on my speech. Firstly, about is their benefit more important than the harm that will happen on our side. They talk about the benefit that will happen on their side is efficiency. To respond for this, we say that this is not the most important thing that we need to cater. The harm that might happen is that people need to take journey in when they want to buy something, for example. This is something that is not important because we say that we already did this in the past before cashless exists, for example. Therefore, the harm that happens won't be that big at the end of the day. Also, when we push for the society to not use cashless, we say that society will also fit in, for example, with how they need to take a long journey at the end of the day when they want to buy essential needs at the end of the day. We say that we already explained that this is better because now when you see that when you want to buy this thing but it's not worth it for the long journey that you will take, you won't buy this thing, for example. There is a consideration that will happen on our side. We say that this is what stop the consumerism consumerism at the end of the day. We say that consumerism is harmful because when people do this out of their irrationality, when they realize that, oh, I being consumerism, will be more hurt. For example, they will be more hurt because they realize that they are being being too much consume something. This is also important because a lot of people still have minimum wage, like what I said before. But then second this point, even if this is harmful, the efficiency is really needed. For example, we say that they never explain how this benefit is more important than the harm that we already explained. That how this is more important than the consumerism that will happen on their side. Because we say that when it's hard for you to buy something, this is what makes people think twice. Or simple example, such as you don't want to spend your 50,000 or 50,000, for example, because this is not something efficient. You still need to take the chance at the end of the day. We say that this is what stopped the consumerism at the end of the day. But then moving on to my second class about safety and accessibility. They say to you that when you are using this cash, it won't be safe at the end of the day because there will be robbery that happen, for example, on our side. To respond for this, we say that this is the worst case because only happen when you being attacked, for example. But even if, for example, this is not worst case, we say that this is usually happen to these people when they use cash. We say that this is not the problem that created because you use cash, for example, and it will be solved when you use cashless, because this is the problem that the government create. For example, they cannot provide enough safety for these people, or a lot of people still in the poverty at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that the cash is not the problem that will create unsafety at the end of the day. But then secondly, even if we say that this is also worse on their side because having cashless is much more unsafe. How? For example, spamming that will happen in the internet, or how because now the technology is so advanced, a lot of people can hack, for example, towards these people. Therefore, we say that safety is still going to be worse on their side. Also, because you, for example, think that it's easier. You only need to click at the end of the day. Therefore, we say this is what makes spamming and safety will be worse on their side. But then secondly, about accessibility, they say that people on the rural area, for example, need to take long journey to buy electricity, for example, or their essential needs. To respond for this, firstly, we say that this is so worst case, for example, because the governments, for example, provide bank, for example, or how on their web they say that bank will be closed on certain time. We say that ATM is 24/7. Therefore, we say so proud to oppose.
All right, thank you very much, Speaker. And that is the end of the substantive part of the grand final round. Congratulations, everyone, for completing that part. For the reply portion, Upper Plata go first. Hear her.
Check. Right. Always have a non-stop mood to always order something and consume everything that is in line with my mood to eat, mood to fulfill tertiary needs, and etc. And always spending towards it until at the end of the week I realize I have spent over than my monthly or like weekly spendings that I have to realize and I have to consider on, is what creates me to regret and doesn't realize my decrease of financial stability at the end of the day. This is what it is created in the proposition side, where individuals are now very irrational in spending towards their needs and like doesn't realize and no consider access with no gadget access or like belongings towards like electronic devices, now I have no way to barter, no way to trade, and no way to do transaction towards one another, because the government like already diminished all forms of like tangible cashes at the end of the day. Therefore, we still question then the accessibility on your side and like the rationality as the main principle, method, and process for every benefits that they want to champion to fly at the end of the day. This is still missing in their case. 3 points that I'm going to bring in my reply speech here. First, regarding the consistency of their case. First speaker of proposition come and say that they're going to mechanize this by making it accessible and efficient for everyone. We still question until now, what about people, like there's so many complex aspects for you to fulfill in order for you to do transaction cashless. How does it look like? Having a smartphone or like gadget, or like even if it is already fulfilled, what about like the internet access for you to do so? Notice that all of their cases still only contingent upon one likelihood, which is if it's accessible for everyone. And we have already crossed it down since the very first speaker regarding how it is going to be inaccessible for people. But then they go and jump towards like practical benefits, like the second speaker said, protecting the UMKM, supporting like economic development of certain country and etc. But they still have a missing link towards their principal arguments to begin with. And like there is, even if, yeah, alright, let's say that it is their argument and we can count on that. Why is it like protecting UMKM is important to begin with? What about like individuals' financial status, financial stability, and etc.? Isn't that like the most important thing for as a government to consider about regarding their society at the end of the day? Their cases is just like so practical and many missing links and like less urgent at the end of the day. Therefore, we say that they don't deserve the win. But comparatively, on our side, we said that we have a clear goal to begin with. We have already mechanized, like we're going to create more banks for people. We're going to create like more money to print and etc. Not only that, we're going to make this principally accessible, which is the need of every individuals, but we're going to create like more rationality to not create a urgency or like crisis like financial instability and etc. at the end of the day. But then secondly, regarding the engagement itself, they're going to say that secondly is regarding why do we win this debate clearly. Let's notice how since the very first speaker on our side, we have crystallized our goal to begin with. What is it then? We want a better accessibility for everyone, and we want for everyone to have a chance in doing barter, trading, and transaction. How does it look like then? We like already provide something that people already habituated with. We are going to diminish the cashless thing and the cashless apps and like cashless method to like not make people really overly like want to use it at the end of the day. We are going to cater not only like the privileged ones, which is to begin with not really, which is to begin with doesn't have anything problematic with using cash, but like the rural areas, remote areas, or like to also like have chances to trade at the end of the day. And B, we want to make a better rationality for individuals. We do this to make every individuals know to consider more regarding their spendings and know their financial status at the end of the day, for a better individual stability and for a better government accessibility of economy. Please vote for team opposition. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, opposition reply. To conclude the grand final round, sorry for that. Proposition reply, you're here.
When I was a child, I was always demanding to my parents to ask about Kinder Joy. I would eat it, and I get toothache. This is the unique education that we put under our side because we give them an epistemic access and unique experience how you trying to fail it. We cop their benefit by saying that even if you don't have any purchasing power, even if you have no zero like money that you have, for example, if give you more experience on the future, for example, to not use your money randomly on those kind of stuff. This is unbeing responses by them, and they never engage to this. And this is the unique responses trying to tackle all the prerequisite of the argument. Three strategical flaw that exist in opposition. That's why they cannot win. Number one, notice how they only play on the very best scenario, and it's not even charitable at all. They always play on the context that people will likely to be irrational, but they never play on the scenario that how about people is rational. Because I will flip this logical when we try to say that if you talk about minority that don't have any money, exactly they will likely to use their money are willingly, for example, or using that very well, for example, because they know money is very essential for them, and those kind of stuff. We flip their logical. I think those kind of things is destroyed. But second thing is, notice how they're backstabbing their cases at all. Three reasons in here. Number one, if you want to say that UMKM is not important, for example, and those kind of stuff, I think you contradict yourself, because exactly how minority trying to start business is from UMKM anyway. So I don't find a reason why UMKM is not important. But second thing is, if you talk about like those kind of purchasing power, you talk about like the long journey, for example, in the third speaker, for example, we already preempt this by saying that exactly this is the reason why stagnancy of economical is exists, because you're always delaying and procrastinate those kind of things, for example, and trying to assure that this is fun, for example, I just never go to the bank, for example, and I'm not purchasing anything. But thirdly, if you talk about like there is no consumerism at all under their side, I just questioning their mechanization, how they're trying to save those kind of MKM anyway. They never even bring any positive cases under their side. How you trying to protecting your minority anyway? Even if in both sides of the house you still poor, for example, at least we are not counting penny every day, for example, under our side. But thirdly, they're dismissive on their cases then. If you talk about like accessibility, for example, and how people afford it, I think we already answered this with the two analysis. Number one, this is the assume of the fiat proposition to saying that this mechanization will always like going well, for example, in the status quo. We're not talking those kind of practicality, but even if it's true, you want to talk about this, we already preempt, even enjoy by saying that this is gradually will happen. Maybe right now we're using a debit card. We're not like suddenly like using those kind of queries, for example. We already give you a lot of analysis and processing analysis on how they will likely to be achieved under our set and what is our mechanization. Moving on to my classes then, why we win and Kalimantan should go and be champion of NSDC 2024. Number one, let's talk about the individual micro level thing. This is the biggest contribution that they said. How they're trying to respond to this? Irrationality and consumerism. I think how I give you the weighing in here. Number one, you cannot buy this kind of characterization because this is not charitable at all. But even if it's true that consumerism is exists, we already give you a lot of analysis on how those kind of people, for example, have those kind of unique experience under our side and those kind of stuff. But how they respond to this? Minority, rural area. How Ellie give you the response? Two responses here. Number one, we give you a better analysis and processing on how we saving those kind of minority, because at least under our side we give them a job opportunity. You can using ads and advertisement, for example, or using those kind of discount, for example, to making them to buying your product, for example, under our side. But second thing is, if you talk about like rural area and minority, you making the stagnancy economical will always happen. Just trading, but they never do investment, for example. You never educate them those kind of things, for example. This is important principle, because if you want to talk about like, those kind of protecting those kind of people, we are the one that give you a clear mechanization of benefit under your side. But even if it's true, we opening those kind of employment, like what Ellie trying to tell to you. Ellie already told that, yeah, we can open those kind of employment basically because like you expanding those kind of market, we make it more accessible, we cop their benefit. How do I give the weighing here? Number one, assuming every argument is destroyed in this debate, at least our benefit is 10, because our benefit is a macro level debate and it's not marginal like what they're trying to say. Yes, they're trying to say that, we want to defend minority and rural area, but this economically thing, for example, is not happen just for them and minority, for example, when they have a less contribution toward the country and those kind of stuff. But under our side, we champion and challenge it by saying that, exactly, we want to make it more marginal and those kind of stuff. How you approach our benefit with an unengaged responses to analysis. Number one, we give you a better clear how the investment will look like under our side, exactly those kind of macro things and those kind of stuff. But secondly, we give you a clear prerequisite to making those kind of economically always cycling good, for example, using those kind of efficiency and effectivity, for example. That's why Cal team break the history.
All right, we thank the proposition reply for those very fine remarks, and that is the end, everyone, of the grand final round of NSDC 2024. Inviting everybody to please cross floor and shake hands. The judges will retire to the VIP room, and you will hear the announcements later on in the closing ceremony. Thank you very much.